Meaningful talk. Let's talk some Rays with our good buddy Chris Adams Wall from Rays Radio. What's going on, brother? I know you're a busy man down there in Port Charlotte. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, Jay. Yeah, it's great to be on. And sorry I'm a little late. I was talking to Trey Morgan about all things New Orleans and about his first big league spring training. So everything's in full swing right now. Obviously, the young guys they're coming, and they're all here. Carson Williams is here. Chandler Simpson, Xavier Isaac, and just been enjoying some live batting practice today. And our first game is Friday, if you can believe that, at
Wow.
Steinbrenner Field against the Yankees.
Yeah, the future home for our Tampa Bay Rays. Give us an update on those young players, Chris. Like, what's the realistic possibility we see one or any of those guys this season for the Rays?
I think there's always a chance, right? And
Mhm.
I think it's going to come down to how the Rays do. I think if they're out of it, quote unquote, by I don't know the middle of the year, or they feel like you know what this isn't really working, I could see those guys coming up. Maybe not all of them, but certainly some of them just to see what we have. But all of those guys are so tight knit and give the Rays all the credit in the world. They are bringing them up seemingly together, like one step at a time at every level. And they show up early. From what I've heard, most of them were at Double A Montgomery last year, but they were showing up early, leaving late, and that's just because they enjoy spending all this time together. So I'm excited. That's obviously the next era for the Tampa Bay Rays. I think you might see some of them though. Like, look, Chandler Simpson had the highest batting average in pro baseball last year. He had
Mhm.
the most stolen bases in all of baseball. Had 104 stolen bases. He's kind of a unique player, especially the way that the game is played these days. Like contact first, kind of a slap hitter. But if he gets on a lot of these bunt singles or just regular singles to the outfield or in the infield, they turn into doubles and sometimes triples with how fast he is. So I'm certainly excited about it, and they are very excited. I've talked to all of them about being at their first big league camp.
Yeah, I can't wait to see those guys and to bring that dynamic offensively. Has what's the talk been like as far as the new home? Right, it's going to be interesting for these guys out there used to playing in a climate controlled atmosphere there at Tropicana Field. How big of a topic of conversation is the fact that they're going to be playing at Steinbrenner Field and outside, and they also have to be very kind of open to adjustments, whether it's rain delays and stuff of that nature.
Yeah, it's kind of the elephant in the room, right? Like, oh,
Mhm.
so we're not playing at Tropicana Field this year. We actually just talked to Drew Rasmussen about it a couple of minutes ago because he threw live batting practice today. Looked really good, felt really good. He got a swing and a miss from Junior Caminero today. A day after Junior took Shane Bosdeep over the fence in right
Mhm.
center field during the live batting practice. But Drew, who is from Washington State, about as far away from Tampa as you can get, said he honestly doesn't think it's going to be that big a deal. We're playing outside here in Port Charlotte, and he seems to think that we can get acclimated to that. We, meaning the team, of course.
Mhm.
And Drew said Drew's never been to Steinbrenner Field, and I think that's the case with a lot of these guys, unless you've been with the Rays over the last couple of spring trainings, or you played in the Florida State League at some time. Then you probably haven't been there, but I'm told that the renovations that have been done have made the place look really impressive. And I think the guys are honestly excited about it. It'll be a bit of a novelty. Obviously, an extremely short porch in right field. We talked to Brandon Lau about that the other day. He's a left-hand hitter. You got Jonathan Aranda, Josh Lowe, same dimensions as the Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, and we know how quickly home runs can get out of there in right field. So I don't think there's a huge concern. It's obviously going to be different. They're going to have to battle the elements, not just the heat, but the rain delays, as you said, Jay. But I think the Rays are certainly up for whatever challenges that might present.
I know one of the things that I look at with the short porch and right field, when the Rays had Longoria and BJ Upton, they also had power opposite field. So Junior Caminero is a guy that really has power to all fields. Keep an eye out for that, Chris Adams. Well, I want to hear that in one of your pre-games this year. Of Junior Caminero has 5 opposite field home runs in the first month, something
Look
like
at
that.
you, just writing my material ahead of time. I appreciate it, Jay. Don't forget Yandy Diaz though, too, right?
Is another one.
He's got power going the other way also, and who knows, Danny Jansen.
Yeah.
He's been pretty good in the past too. So the Rays, they have so many. Christopher Morel, another guy, right, who can hopefully spray the ball around the field. They have matchup on matchup on matchup, like you name it, and they probably have the guy there for whatever situation might come about, and they just have a ton of depth on this roster. But yeah, I'm excited, right? Like
Hmm.
this is something different. There's some novelty to the whole thing. Obviously, we prefer to be at Tropicana Field in downtown St. Petersburg, but we've never had professional baseball in Tampa, or at least Major League Baseball, and the Rays have only played a few, from what I understand, home games outside over any point in their history. So it's going to be interesting, that's for sure.
The Rays certainly need to get on a taco sponsorship, because if they have a bunch of right-handed hitters going Oppo Taco, that would be a
Apo
great thing
Taco.
right there. I
I
want to
like
ask you
that.
about. I want to ask you about, because it looks like we're looking at a situation here where, okay, we know Jansen. We kind of have a semblance of what the starting lineup is going to be. You got Junior. Before Kim comes back, probably a Taylor Walls option, maybe Caballero, second base, Lau, Diaz, Josh Lowe. Everybody's hoping for a big bounce back year. Johnny DeLuca is going to get an opportunity to show he can be an everyday center fielder. I look at left field, Chris. Tell me about left field. Tell me the options there, because I know Christopher Morel came across in the deal with Isaac Paredes, but outside of the early power, there's some swing and miss to his game, but I know that that's something in the offseason he was very mindful of. Like, I got to put the ball in play more. I got to be able to accentuate my strengths here. But what are they going to do in left field? Is it going to be more of a platoon thing? Are they going to give it to him? Like, where do you see guys like him, Caballero, working into this entire mix?
Yeah, well, they have a bevy of options, as you just kind of laid out there. You do have Christopher Morel, an infielder who has played some outfield, or an outfielder who has played some infield. You mentioned Jose Caballero. He is working and going to be doing some work in the outfield as well this year, or this spring training, I should say. You have Richie Palacios out there, who's
Mhm.
also an infielder, left-handed bat. So I think we're going to see how it goes, and
Right.
obviously Jose Caballero, right? Let's not forget that guy led the American League in stolen bases last season, and
Pretty
now
hard to keep him off the field, man. It
that
really
right,
is.
exactly, and he's a grinder. I think he had the second most plate appearances last year after Yandy Diaz, who played in the second most games for any race. So we know that the durability is there. Cabby's really fast, right? So maybe if you get him working on these reads, he could turn into a pretty good defensive left fielder. I know he's up for the challenge. When he came here last year, I interviewed him, and he said, "I'm willing to do whatever I can for this team, whether that's coming on as a pinch runner or playing shortstop, playing left field. I think he'll be up for it." So I right now, I think it's a bit of a let's wait and see what's going to happen out there in left field. But the names that I mentioned already, those are some pretty good candidates. And but that one, like you said, Jay, it's kind of like well, that's the one that's kind of still up for grabs. But I think depending on the matchups, you might see Morel in there against left-handed pitching, and then maybe Cabby in there, and then maybe Richie out there against right-handed pitching.
A name, excuse me, that is not being mentioned by enough people is Eloy Jimenez. And this is a
There's
guy,
another
six
one.
four. He dropped 20 to 30 pounds in the
Mm.
offseason. What have you seen from him so far? I don't know if, maybe he'll be an option in the outfield, but I think he can be a real dangerous hitter. We're talking so much about Junior Caminero, but I think Eloy Jimenez is one of those guys where if he can really get back to that scary right-handed hitter that we saw for Chicago, like, he can accidentally hit 25 home runs. Like, he is that strong. What have you
Yeah,
seen from him? How does he fit into the entire equation?
I don't think it'll be accidentally either. He has come into Ray's camp 25 to 30 pounds lighter than he was at the end of last season. And he was really honest about his time with the White Sox and the Orioles at the end of last season. He said, yeah, the Orioles were successful before I got there, so
Mhm.
I wasn't going to be able to contribute as much as I would have liked. He only hit 6 home runs last season, but he has shed that weight. He's been doing a ton of running. His English, by the way, is superb, and he credits a lot of his minor league teammates during his time with the Cubs and the White Sox for that. But he looks good. He probably looks the sharpest that he has physically in a number of years. Remember, his first year with the White Sox was 2019, and we're sitting in 2025 now. He's still only 28 years old.
Yeah.
Like, he broke in early, had a very good season for them in 19, and then in 2020, in the COVID year, he won a Silver Slugger award. He still says that's probably the greatest accomplishment of his career. But we interviewed him the first day that we saw him, and he said, "You're going to see. I'm going to do some things this year. So get ready." And he's another option in left field. They're going to try him out there. I'm also told that he might try some reps at first base. So
Okay.
keep an eye on that. But you're right, Jay. I think if this is anywhere close to the Eloy Jimenez that we had in 2019 and 2020, one of the top prospects in all of baseball, then the Rays are just going to have another big piece in that offense that's hopefully going to be a lot better here in 2025.
31 home runs there in 2019, fourth in
Mm-hmm.
the Rookie of the Year voting. I'm super excited to see if he can recapture some of that magic for the Rays. Let's get to the bread and butter here, my friend. The pitching. I mean, I look
Yes.
at these guys and talk to Ryan Pepiot a lot in the offseason, and to see Shane McClanahan take his rightful spots there at the top of the rotation, already named the opening day starter. I feel like one thing that the Rays, and obviously we're knocking on wood, we're keeping our fingers crossed that these guys can stay healthy. The one thing that this team needs is they need to make sure that everybody is kind of slotted in that right spot. Go every fifth day, make sure that they're getting some kind of semblance of routine, because we haven't gotten that in the last couple of years. It was always a guy going down, a guy going up. I think one thing that would really help this team, and I hope you agree, is that coming out of the gates, let's just get a couple of weeks, right? Let's get a month and a half of just seeing the same guys, right? And I think that would bode well of just getting off not just the starting rotation, but the season for this entire team off on the right foot.
I think so. And I think they just want to see everybody healthy, right? Like, it's been a
Right.
while where we've gone for a whole season and not had some injuries. I love that Shane McClanahan is going to be starting opening day. He seems loose. He's excited to be back because think about it. I mean, Tommy John surgery, you essentially aren't pitching for over a year plus. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're a competitive guy, which most of these guys are, then you're going to get that itch and it's going to drive you crazy. So it's good to have him back. Pepio, obviously. Uh, Hopefully, he will take another step. Taj Bradley, same thing. Drew Rasmussen back in the rotation also this year. They have 6 starting pitchers, though, as you know, including Zach Littell also in there. I wouldn't be surprised if they went to a 6-man rotation early on. And I think it seems to make sense with the way the schedule lines up. You got 3 against the Rockies, 3 against the Pittsburgh Pirates. I don't know if they'll do it personally, but I was talking with Rays pitching coach Kyle Snyder the other day, and he said, you can never take anything off the table with this group. So maybe they will go to a 6-man rotation, but they have a ton of great arms. The big fear, of course, is that someone is going to get injured. Hopefully, that's not the case early on. I think if you have everybody healthy, this is probably one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. And don't forget about Shane Baz, too, who is entering his what should be first full season with the Rays. It's hard for me to think back on the fact that, oh yeah, he started a division series game all the way back in 2021, and now
Mm-hmm.
here he is. So he's still a young guy too. That bullpen looks really good also, which we didn't know what it was going to look like last season after all the trades, losing Jason Adam and Pete Fairbanks going down. By the way, Pete should be healthy at the start of the season too. I'm really excited, man. They have a lot of arms in the minors also that they can bring up, and they're probably going to be a lot of rain delays. Hopefully not. Hopefully we'll get through an entire season where we don't have to say that word. But a lot of big arms like Hunter Biggie, right? Garrett Clevenger will be back. We saw Mason Montgomery throw live batting practice today, and that was coming in, I want to say high 90s, and we saw what he did last year when he came up. Rays have a ton of options, Jay,
Yeah.
and the pitching staff. We know it starts with them, and I think if you can get this offense back to league average, even then the Rays are going to be in really good shape. I think their biggest issue is going to be the other teams in the American League East, because if you look at those projected lineups and rotations, those four teams have gotten a little bit better too.
Who do you think? Who scares you the most in the AL East? Who's that team that you look at and go, if I had a bet, that'd be the team that would finish the highest out of? And you know, we'll leave. I don't think you'll say Blue Jays. Well, let's just say with Orioles, Yankees, Red Sox. No disrespect to our Toronto brethren, but out of those three teams, who do you think is going to finish the highest out of those three?
It is funny that you say that. I was going to say Toronto. Now
Really?
it's tempting to say New York because they were in the World Series last year and they've retooled with MVP on MVP on MVP, right? Like think about how many combined most valuable player awards are on that
Mhm.
team now that Cody Bellinger is there, Paul Goldschmidt, Aaron Judge, of course, Giancarlo Stanton. The list goes on. But I see them taking it more of a step back. They're going to be competitive. We know that they just have too much talent on that roster, but they don't have Juan Soto anymore. Baltimore, I don't know. We know that they're really talented. We know that they have our guy Zach Eflin up there now, but they haven't won a playoffs game
Right.
yet with that group. So I could see them taking a step back. The Red Sox, they haven't really been in the playoffs, I don't think, since 2021. Though they did just sign Alex Bregman, although it looks like they're having some issues there with whether Rafael Devers is going to be allowed to play third base or if he's going to be more
Mhm.
of a designated hitter. I like Toronto, how they signed Anthony
Okay.
Santander. He had a mega season last year. You put him in the thick of that lineup. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., we don't really know what's going on there, but he's probably going to be a free agent, it sounds like, at the end of this season. So he will have
Contract
something to
year.
prove. Contract year, exactly. Bo Bichette will be back and healthy. They signed Max Scherzer also. And I know he's getting up there, but he's still Max Scherzer. Plus the other arms there, like Jose Barrios, Kevin Gosman. I do think the Blue
Nice.
Jays are good. They might be the team to watch in the American League East outside of the Rays, but all five of those teams that I named are really, really good. They're tough. So this to me is the best division in baseball, at least where we stand right now on February 19th or whatever the date is.
What are you looking at for the kind of the rest of the week? Well, actually, tomorrow now before the opener on Friday.
Probably some more live batting practices.
Mhm.
I would like to see Eric Orzy throw
Okay.
live BP. I have not seen him yet. The Rays got him in that deal for Jose Siri from the New York Mets. The Rays have all of these ex-Mets pitchers all of a sudden, like Mike Vassell is here. Uh, Nathan Lavender is here also, although he just went on the injured list. But there are a bunch of Mets guys all of a sudden,
Mhm.
which is kind of interesting. Honestly, I'm excited for the game on Friday. I'm planning on going, and kind of fitting that we open up at Steinbrenner Field, and then the second to last game of the season, which will be broadcasted live by Andy Free and Neil Solondz. That's going to be at Steinbrenner Field also. I think that's on March 24th, I want to say, up there in Tampa. So I'm excited to get the games going. I think there really aren't that many spots up for grabs. The way that you look
Mhm.
at the roster right now, maybe a couple in the bullpen, and then we'll see what happens with left field. But I'm just excited for the season to get going. We know how much the Rays struggled with runners in scoring position last season, and to get the runner in from third, they've been doing a ton of drills this week. Little games during live batting practice where you're like, all right, guy on third, like let's
Mhm.
zone in here and let's make sure that we get him in somehow, be it with a sac fly or a ground ball to the opposite side. So I think this group is definitely determined. They are pretty unhappy that they missed out on the playoffs last season. They've got a few more hits. Who knows? They might have been that sixth wild card team.
Right.
I think you can talk yourself into a bunch of these guys taking another step forward, and hopefully the Rays will be back in the postseason come 2025. But yeah, I just can't wait for the games to get going, Jay. It's a long winded answer that I can give you right there.
I'm with you, brother. I cannot wait, and I can't wait to hear you pre and post game there on the Rays Radio Network on WDAE with our good pals over there, Andy Freed, Neil Solons, the entire crew, Chris Miller, Becky, everybody over there, man. We love you guys so much, and can't wait to hear you guys. And it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time before it starts. And then once it starts, it don't stop, man, because baseball is the heartbeat of America, and it's day in, day out. You can win 10-0, lose 10-0. It don't matter. You got to get up the very next day, and your starting pitcher has to toe the slab. So cannot wait for that. Chris Adams Wall, follow him on Twitter/X at his name, just like me, Jay Recher, Chris Adams Wall. We're smart. We signed up early, so nobody can steal our stuff. Chris, you're the best, man. Enjoy it down there in Port Charlotte, and we'll talk to you again soon. Appreciate you.
All right, thanks, Jay. Go Chelsea.
Oh, God, get him out of here, this guy. See you, pal.